Justice is a universal need, but then how does one punish the unjust with justice? This is a paradox that is much sorted now, but back in the days it was brutal. The Persian Empire advocated against executing individuals for first offenses and emphasized evaluating a criminal's good deeds before passing judgment. They believed that deserving individuals should bear the consequences of their actions. In this video, we're going to look at some of the most brutal punishments of the Persian Empire. Number 1. Human skin fashioned chair. What does a Persian king do when he catches the judge in his court taking a bribe? King Darius of Persia decided it would be fitting if he made the judge's chair out of the judge when Judge Sisimnes was caught taking money from under the table. To ensure justice, he spoke to his ministers and orchestrated a sick punishment. Sisimnes was executed, or in other words, brutally murdered by having his throat slit, and then his remains skin was flayed off to create strips of human leather. These skin strips were then used to construct a chair, which became the seat of Sisimnes' own son. Number 2. Sinking in the ashes. Suffocation by ashes was a punishment for the criminals who, in today's standards, would be suffocation by ropes. This was for people who did crimes against the gods. The Persians had a 75 feet tall tower just for execution. It was filled with nothing but ashes and wheels. At the tip of the tower, a sliding platform of death tossed down into the heart of the tower. The fall from about 23 meters would often result in broken bones. The ashes would be the poetic suffering with a gradual death. Executioners would then activate the wheels almost like a giant washing machine, causing the ashes to swirl and forcefully enter the convict's nose and mouth. As they inhaled the burnt remains, they would die by suffocation, but the Persians did not pioneer this method, and it even is referenced in the Bible. Number 3. Drinking gold. When the Roman Emperor Valerian was captured by the Persian troops, the emperor at the time, Emperor Shapur, decided to make the Roman emperor drink hot molten gold. But even before that, Emperor Shapur decided to use him as a toy and played with him like a pet in shackles, humiliating the Roman emperor in front of the Persians, treating him like a dog, and sometimes using the Valerian as a human stool. After all that, Shapur for his last act flayed his skin and turned the Roman emperor into a wall piece, as it is said that he was taxidermied. He was then kept in the Persian temple as an ornament of gold and human remains. Number 4. Tearing apart with trees. Thieves in the Persian era faced gruesome punishments that struck fear into the hearts of wrongdoers. If a person was caught stealing or assaulting travelers on the empire's roads, then your fate would be sealed. They were condemned to securing the tops of 2 trees as close together as possible and binding the convict's legs to each tree. As the cords holding the trees were released, the tension catapulted the trees apart with a jolting force, instantly tearing the criminal's body in two. Number 5. Crushed with stones. The Persian Empire was known for maintaining fairness in the society, but there were social biases depending upon one's social status. The king and his family enjoyed a level of immunity, enabling them to escape punishment for their actions. A striking example of this was seen during the reign of King Artaxerxes II, when his own mother committed the heinous act of murdering his wife. Astonishingly, instead of executing the mother, Artaxerxes opted to punish her servants in her place. The tension between Artaxerxes' mother, Persides, and his wife, Statera, was no secret. However, Persides devised a cunning plan to poison Statera. She coated one side of a knife with poison and instructed her servant to use it while cutting the meat, thereby tainting Statera's portion while keeping hers untainted. The plot succeeded, and the queen was murdered by the king's own mother. Although Artaxerxes was well aware of his mother's guilt, he couldn't bring himself to execute her. Instead, he subjected all of her servants to torture until they confessed. Furthermore, he personally executed the servant responsible for cutting the tainted meat by smashing his head with a rock. Persides, on the other hand, was simply exiled. Number 6. Feast for the insects. While scaphism is widely known as one of the most horrifying punishments in Persian history, no list would be complete without mentioning it. Reserved for people whom the king held intense hatred for, the criminal was stripped naked and trapped within a hollowed-out tree trunk or 2 boats, exposing their limbs to the merciless sun. To exacerbate their torment, the victim would be forcefully fed a mixture of milk and honey, inducing diarrhea, and subjecting them to an unimaginable state of filth. To intensify the ordeal, torturers would smear honey on the exposed flesh, attracting insects that would gradually devour the helpless individual, while wasps would relentlessly sting, inflicting excruciating pain. As days turned into weeks, the captives' mental faculties would deteriorate, yet their life would persist. It could take weeks for their body to succumb while they endured unimaginable suffering and incessantly prayed for their release. The first recorded instance of scaphism lasted an excruciating 17 days before the victim's pleas for death were finally granted. Now that I've painted a good picture in your mind, I'd like to take my leave. But subscribe if you want more such videos. Have a good day.